Okay, so let me introduce our MC for the evening, whose personality is just as unique as his name, Deacon Oroke.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Deacon Oroke. I'm a member of Trinity Presbyterian Church. I will try and do a little bit of entertaining this evening and try and keep things straight in my mind. I also have some notes here. But I just thought I'd say that my wife and I have had a relationship with First Baptist Church. We were actually married in First Baptist Church in 1969 when we was down there. And my mother was a member here for over 30 years. So, well, to move on, I just thought I'd say, I don't know if First Baptist is like Trinity, but we have somewhat of an aging congregation, and we've attended a few funerals in the last few weeks. And that made me start thinking about my own time. And so I told my wife, Pam, I said, Pam, you know, caskets are just so expensive. I said, I think I'd really prefer to be cremated. I said, you know, now, some of those urns, they're just fancy and ostentatious. I don't want anything like that. Maybe you could find something that would reflect my personality. Something that, you know, people would see that and they would know that that was me. So here's what she found. Well, she did say, I'll make sure I get you a clean one, honey. So, we have Ty Albers doing a song by the Goo Goo Dolls, unless he's gonna chicken out. Who passed away. And he got to heaven, and St. Peter recognized him and said, oh yeah, you were a great golfer down on earth. Says you lived a good life, you followed the commandments. He says, well, welcome. Says you're gonna find that the best golf courses you have ever seen are up here. And St. Peter said, as a matter of fact, I need a fourth for tomorrow morning. Would you like to play with us? And he said, oh, that'd be terrific. So St. Peter said, well, I'll come by and get you. So they went out the next morning, they got on the first tee box, and there was St. Peter and the golfer, Jesus Christ, and the guy didn't really recognize. So first one up was St. Peter. He hit the ball, went about 175 yards. Oh, great shot, great shot. Next was Jesus Christ. Jesus hit the ball 225 yards. Oh, great shot, great shot. So then they had the golfer go next, and he hit the ball. It was the best shot he had ever had in his, well, I guess you'd say life, although, you know. And then the other fella gets up, and he hits the ball, and he pops it. That means just kind of hits the top of the ball, and it just kind of starts puttering down the side of the fairway. And before it stops, a squirrel comes out of the woods, picks up the ball in his mouth, and starts scampering, running down the fairway. And about the time he's really going full speed, an eagle comes down, grabs the squirrel in his mouth, starts flying, and when the eagle is above the green, a lightning bolt comes out of the sky. It hits the eagle drops the squirrel hits the green, and the ball pops out of the squirrel's mouth and rolls into the hole. Jesus gets a big smile on his face, walks over to the guy, puts his arm around him and said, nice shot, Dad. Well, make no mistake, God made us all. But I've been told by some of my lady friends, women friends, that maybe Genesis didn't have it exactly right at creation. What I heard was that Eve was in the garden, and she said, God, I have a problem. And God said, well, Eve, what's that? And she said, well, I know you made me and all these beautiful things down here and all the wonderful creatures, but I'm still lonely. And he said, well, Eve, I used all my good stuff up making you. He says, I could make another creature, but it's going to be flawed. He says, I think I'll call it man. He says, he's going to be bigger than you. And he kind of lacks listening skills. And he just never puts anything away. And, you know, okay. Other thing is, he kind of has a habit of scratching himself inappropriately. And he said, oh, now, I can live with all that, you know. He said, well, there is one other thing. He says, he's got an enormous ego, so I think we're going to have to tell him that I made him first. Not everything that happens at a church is a good thing. I heard about a small town where all of the churches were infested with squirrels. And each denomination took a different approach towards how to handle that. The Methodists, being practical people, set traps, trapped the squirrels, took them to the country, which was fine, but the squirrels almost beat them back to the church. And Presbyterians, being Presbyterians, had to form a committee to select a committee to then make a determination on what to do. And that committee said, well, it's predestined to have squirrels in our church, so they didn't do it. The Baptists were next. The Baptists said, if they're going to be here, then they have to be baptized, and they immersed every squirrel that was in the church, and the squirrels loved it and told their squirrel friends, so they ended up with more squirrels. And the Catholics, they're pretty clever. The Catholics said, well, if they're going to be here, we're going to make them members of the church. And they did, which meant that the squirrels then only showed up on Christmas and Easter. Those that solved the problem were the Jews. The Jews invited all of the squirrels in town to temple. And the rabbi then performed a circumcision on one squirrel. They never had another single squirrel in their synagogue. Why did the blonde put on a parka and a leather coat to paint a bedroom? Because the directions on the can said, best results if you use 2 coats. Why did the police officer take a bed to work? Because he was an undercover cop. Oh, let's see here. I think we did those. Yeah, I'm sorry, I do have more. A couple of weeks ago, there were 2 guys standing by the side of the road, holding up signs to the passing cars. One sign said, "The end is near." The other said, "Turn yourself around before it's too late." Well, thinking they were part of the Westboro Baptist the drivers going by yelled out, "Leave us alone, you religious nuts!" And after they passed, they always heard screeching tires and a big splash. So one guy turned to the other one and said, "Do you think maybe it'd be better if our signs just said, 'Bridges out'?" Well, I don't know if you all First Baptists know, but Kate came to us about 3 years ago, and she's just been a terrific asset to our church. Can I get a round of applause? Well, in the beginning, as the new pastor, she wanted to meet all of the congregation. So she started out visiting their homes. And everything went fine until one day she went to the home of one of our more prominent members. And this was a man who was very well, just a great guy, but he was also known to be a Bible scholar. So Kate got to his house and she knocked on the door and no one answered. And she knocked again and again, and finally she gave up and she thought, "Bible scholar? Okay." So she wrote just Revelation 3:20 on her business card and stuck it in the door.
"Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him, and he with me."
Well, shortly after she arrived home, she received an email from him, and it stated Genesis 3:10. And Genesis 3:10 says, I heard thy voice while I was in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, and I hid myself."